So we're working on our we're working here on the gospel of creation this week. Last week we focused on his starting point, which was an attempt for him to identify the key elements of what's happening in our common home. And I wonder if we could just go around and everybody read one of those subtopics there in number 1, what's happening in our common home, just so we can hear them again.
Number 1, pollution and climate. Pollution, waste, and the throwaway culture. Climate and the common good.
2, the issues of water.
3, the loss of biodiversity.
4, decline in the quality of human life and the breakdown of society.
5, global inequality.
7 or 6, weak responses.
7, a variety of opinions.
And next week, we're moving into, I think, where he sees the heart of his argument here in terms of the chief challenge or contradiction, or the human roots of the ecological crisis, and his major proposal, which is this notion of integral ecology and how to move there.
James, can I add one thing?
Please.
Jim Stowell and I got real interested in that segment about loss of biodiversity, and we got some stuff from Randy Williams that was more like being able to see a larger picture, like a systems view of biodiversity, and we're having an interesting time looking into that. There's the assertion in that segment about there's a need for further scientific research. So we decided to just browse a little bit and see what we could find, and found some pretty interesting stuff. I'm done.
Dharma, you added a comment into the trusted sharing that kind of pertains to this business of biodiversity. Why don't you say a little bit about what your reactions?
Okay. Yes, I was just reading this article, and he talks. He gives figures, and one of the startling things he says, startling for me, is that he says that most of the large creatures that exist today exist in farms. You know, people usually think, when they think of the animal world and the large beasts, they think of lions and penguins and so forth. But he forgotten the numbers, but he gives numbers like 1.5 billion cows, 1 billion pigs, and 20 billion chickens that live on industrial farms. And so if you look at the animal world, at least the large ones, they make up the majority of animal life. And that's one thing he says. The other thing he says is that way back, you know, like 45,000 years ago, you know, in Australia, the human impact destroyed a large proportion of the species, and that in the US 15,000 years ago, about I think 70% or something like that of the species were destroyed because of human impact. So when you look at it, although the Pope talks about the last 200 years being the ones where most of the damage was done, when you look at it, historically, the human species has had a terrible impact on all the other species. Of course, you know, we don't know what impact the other species have had on other species, but historically, if you look at it, the human species has definitely been a disaster for the existence of other species. So, I mean, that's I was just thinking to myself that it's good to have historical information to look at the mythologies that we are looking at. I'm done.
Anything else before we move into chapter 2?